Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of What If Peter Parker Was in Miraculous Ladybug. Chapter 5. Marinette woke up the following day to a phone call from Elia. Dude, have you woken up yet? School, remember? Somehow the phone answered itself. Marinette jolted awake. She picked up the phone. Elia? Oh no, my alarm didn't go off. How late is it? Chillax, girl, Elia responded. It's only 5 minutes. After the time your alarm is supposed to go off. How do you know what time my alarm goes off? Marinette exclaimed. A magician never reveals her secrets. Elia mused. Now hurry up and get ready for school. At lunch, Elia was telling the story of her encounter with the Akuma from yesterday. Peter was listening intently, even though he had been there too. The dragon was huge. Peter interrupted as Elia was describing the giant green lizard. She shot him a brief, annoyed look before continuing. Anyway, as I was saying, the dragon never said a word or anything, and it didn't seem to be seeking out Ladybug or Chat Noir's miraculousness. So it seems Hawkmoth made a mistake again, she mused. It seemed like its only goal was to tear up the city, Peter added excitedly. And so, the dragon had all these chains all over it. Probably decorative? Elia continued. And then suddenly Chat Noir appeared and used his cataclysm on one of the chains. However, it disappeared and nothing happened. Then we saw him land on the roof of a building and we saw him talking to Ladybug. But Elia didn't get a good picture. And then this guy, Elia said, pointing her finger at Peter, pushes me out onto the road suddenly. I was about to ask him what on earth he did that for. But a huge piece of a building crashed onto the ground, right where we were standing. It was nothing, really, Peter breathed, flushing a shade of red. I just heard some rumbling and saw the building didn't look very secure. No, Elia rambled. I didn't hear anything, and I pay close attention to my surroundings. There was nothing happening. You gotta have some sort of sixth sense or something. Peter scratched his head, laughing quietly. Marinette noticed someone walking up behind Peter. Oi, loser. Her voice had an American accent, similar to Peter's, but not as distinct. Peter turned around surprised. He said something in English, and she responded, an amused look on her face. Michelle, what are you doing here? There were some last-minute changes. I put my hand up to go, because why not? I'm assuming one of those changes was how Ned couldn't come anymore, right? He said it had something to do with a family issue. Yep. Also, Flash put his hand up to come as well, so he's here too. Really? You mean I still can't get away from him? Hey, French please, Elia said, interrupting their conversation. We don't speak English. Oops, sorry, Peter apologized. This is Michelle, she goes to my school. They know that idiot. Let me introduce myself, thanks. She glanced towards Marinette, Elia, Nino and Adrien. I'm Michelle, she said bluntly, a hint of a smile on her face. Michelle's skin was dark, but not as dark as Elia's, and her brown curly hair was tied back behind her head except for a fringe that covered half of her face. She wore a dark jacket over the shirt she was wearing and a backpack was slung over her shoulder. I'm Elia said. This is Nino and this is Adrien and I'm Marinette added. Michelle glanced at Marinette. I think I'm staying with you. Unless there's more than one Marinette in this school. I'm assuming so, Marinette responded. A horrible choice, really. You should have stayed with me. We have countless 5-star rooms that you could stay in. Definitely better than whatever floor you'll sleep on at Marinette's house. Do you even own a bed, Marinette? Yes, Chloe. Marinette turned around with a sigh. Chloe stood behind her, a smug smirk on her face. Sabrina stood next to her, attempting to copy Chloe's face but not succeeding in so, and a boy stood on the other side of Chloe. Like Michelle, he also had semi-dark skin and dark hair. His glare was directed at Peter. However, Parker, he said, his voice dripping with venom. You chose some really lame people to make friends with. Don't you even have the decency to hang out with the person who is giving you a place to stay? Go away, Flash. Please, Peter pleaded. Chloe laughed. Listen to him. You were right. There's no way he could have gotten an internship with Tony Stark. Hey, cut it out, Chloe, Adrien said, walking up to her. His face was set into a frown. You're being unnecessarily rude today. I thought you were better than this. Chloe's expression changed immediately. Sorry, Marinette, and sorry, Peter. She apologized quickly, although it didn't sound like she meant it. Michelle glared at Flash. I think you're being unnecessarily rude as well, she snorted, and he glared back at her, before walking away with Chloe and Sabrina. Marinette turned to Michelle. Sorry, Michelle, she apologized. Sometimes Chloe decides that her goal for the day is to make fun of me in any way possible, and it seems anyone associated with me is going to get a similar treatment. Michelle shushed her. Don't worry, it's all good. Flash is always rude to Peter. I think he's just jealous of his internship. Elia interrupted them all. Guys, you didn't let me finish my recap of yesterday's events. Go ahead. Nino grinned, and Elia launched back into exposition. So after Peter here decided to play hero and save me, he had to leave. He had to go get his stuff, Yano. Elia grinned, and a few minutes later, I saw this person swing past. I was so confused. I was trying to figure out who it could be when I realized it was Spider-Man. You know, from the YouTube videos? Michelle looked up from her book. Spider-Man was in Paris yesterday? Like here? Yeah, isn't that cool? He's actually from around where you guys live, right? Yep, Michelle responded, looking back down at her book, seemingly uninterested. And then, the bell chimed, interrupting Elia. Lunch was over. Michelle walked home with Marinette, seeing as she was staying at her home. So you're friends with Peter? Marinette asked, sitting on her bed. Her parents had set up another bed for Michelle which she sat on as well. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that, Michelle answered. We're both on the decathlon team. I am actually the captain. Really? That's so cool. Marinette grinned. Thanks, Michelle thanked. She got off her bed and took out her book from her bag. She opened up the book, but continued the conversation. So Peter, huh? What about him? Marinette echoed. You talk about him a lot, Michelle said, looking up from her book with a hint of a smile on her face. What? No, I don't, Marinette exclaimed. Yeah, I guess you talk about Adrien more. Michelle held her gaze with Marinette's until Marinette looked away. What do you know? You've only known me for a day. I'm observant, Michelle told her. Besides, Elia said a few things. Marinette's face grew hot and she sighed. Michelle snorted. And on that subject, if you're hiding a big secret, please at least attempt to hide it. You have no idea what I've found lying around in people's rooms, or the way they act sometimes. They're basically telling me they're hiding something and exactly what it is. I'll have to double check, but I'm certain I'm not leaving anything lying around. Unless you count my diary. Don't touch my diary, Michelle. Marinette joked. No need. I already know your secret, Marinette. Michelle snorted. What? Marinette froze. Your crush. Remember, Michelle said, not looking up from her book. Oh, yeah, Marinette responded. And by the way, my friends call me MJ. Am I your friend? Marinette asked. Duh, why else would I have told you that? Oh, right. Marinette laughed. Chapter 6. Marinette knew a bit of English. After all, she chose to learn English at school. She didn't know a lot of English, but she knew more than some of her classmates. For example, Chloe. However, the exchange students were obviously fluent in English. The teacher had banned them from answering any of the questions unless they were called upon. This didn't stop Peter from whispering the answers to Marinette. How does one say, I like to go to the beach, in English? The teacher asked, glancing towards Marinette and pointing at her. Marinette drawled. Come on. You know how to say this. It's easy. I like to go to the beach. Peter's hushed whisper said from behind her. I like to go to the beach. Marinette answered. The teacher nodded and Marinette turned to thank Peter as the teacher turned her back. Thanks, no problem, Peter responded in English with a grin. The bell chimed, signaling the end of the period and the start of lunch. Marinette grabbed her things, placing them in her bag. The students filed out of the classroom. Hey, Peter fell in beside Marinette as they walked to where they were eating lunch. You know, if you're still struggling with English, I could help you out a bit after school, he offered. Marinette thought for a second before shaking her head. Thanks for the offer, but I think I'll ask MJ instead, seeing as she is staying with me. I hope you don't mind though. It's still a good idea. Peter opened his mouth to respond, but Chloe interrupted him. Peter, you can tutor me, you know, since Marinette is obviously missing out on how amazing you are at English. Plus, you're already staying at my place. Chloe slid an arm around Peter's shoulders and he flinched. What's with the sudden change? Marinette thought. Yesterday she was mocking him alongside that Flash kid and today, oh okay Chloe. Peter responded. I knew you'd accept. No one can resist moi, Chloe said, pulling him into a hug. Peter carefully pushed her away, following Marinette to where they would sit to eat. Hey, MJ, Marinette asked Michelle, do you think you could help me out with my English after school? Michelle nodded. Sure. I don't have much else to do. Plus, I'm staying at your place anyway. Thanks. Marinette smiled, returning to her lunch. Chloe didn't seem to like Michelle very much, It was apparently mostly because Michelle was friends with Marinette and B because Michelle was already close to Peter. Chloe had suddenly made it her mission to become as close to him as possible. Because of this, she was constantly throwing insults towards her as well as Marinette. Michelle never seemed to be affected by any of Chloe's insults. She would just raise her eyebrows and look at Chloe until the blonde-haired girl looked away. She was never affected, that was, until something Chloe said made her snap. So Michelle, Chloe said from behind them, "Have you met my new boyfriend yet?" Adrien, Alia, Marinette, Nino and Michelle all turned around to look at Chloe with eyebrows raised. "No, I do not believe I have met this friend of yours, Chloe," Michelle responded dryly. "Who is it?" "It's Peter, of course," Chloe answered, tossing her head abruptly to the side. "Peter?" Marinette thought. She has to be lying. The whole group turned their gaze towards the other side of the hall where Peter was exiting the bathroom and then walking towards them, confused as to why they were all staring at him. "Peter?" Michelle echoed, her shoulders tensing. "Yes," Chloe replied smugly. "Didn't you hear me?" She put her arm on the table and leaned on it, observing Michelle's reaction. "You are lying," Michelle responded, almost spitting out the words. "No," Chloe replied, realizing she'd finally hit a nerve. "Why would I lie about this? You know how he's staying with me. We were watching a movie in my room. I let him pick the movie, of course. It was a terribly boring movie though. But when it was finished, I asked him to be my boyfriend." Chloe stopped leaning on the table. "And he said yes." She's lying, Marinette thought. She glanced over at Alia, who had a skeptical eyebrow raised. "Nah, you're lying." Alia said, "No. You can ask him when he gets over here. He's even going to tutor me today, and you know how that always ends." Michelle snorted, standing up to talk to Peter as he neared their table. "Peter," Michelle said. "Huh? Did Chloe ask you out?" Michelle asked him. "And well, yeah, but..." Chloe cut him off. "See?" She slid an arm around her shoulders like she did earlier, and Peter stood there, confused and looking slightly uncomfortable. Michelle snorted and opened her book, seemingly irritated. Alia narrowed her eyes. "Did you just come over here to brag, Chloe? Seriously?" Chloe hesitated, and Michelle closed her book, standing up and walking away. Peter looked at Alia. "Why is Michelle mad?" Alia raised an eyebrow. "I'm not particularly impressed either." "Why are you dating Chloe?" "What?" Peter exclaimed, glancing at Chloe. "This is why you've been like this today. I said no last night, Chloe. Didn't you get that?" Chloe laughed. "You were obviously mistaken. No one can turn me down. Besides, I have achieved my goal." A purple butterfly fluttered past, Marinette gasped. "An Akuma." She frowned. "Chloe, you're going to get Michelle akumatized. Should I care?" Alia ran towards the bathroom where Michelle had headed. Marinette followed behind her, hoping she'd be able to calm Michelle down. They burst into the bathroom, seeing Michelle leaning against the wall, reading her book. The Akuma fluttered around her, and Michelle's face was masked in amusement. However, when she saw Marinette and Alia, she frowned, looking back down at the book in her hands. The butterfly landed on her book, and Michelle froze, her eyes glazing over chapter 7. Michelle stared into space, her eyes glazed over and a frown on her face. She muttered quietly as if talking to someone. "MJ," Marinette exclaimed. "Fight it. Don't listen to Hawkmoth." Michelle looked up at them. "I'm not MJ." She closed her book and a dark mist surrounded her, coming from the book. "I'm the observer." Marinette pulled Alia backwards as she got out her phone and began to record. "Let's see how this works," Michelle the observer said as she stepped out of the clearing mist. Her dark hair was tied back behind her head, and in place of her casual clothes was a dark suit with a gleaming purple eye on her chest. "Keep your eyes on the eye," observer said, clutching her book with a grin. The cover of the book was dark, and something that resembled an energy bar of some sorts began to fill up as observer reached out and grabbed Alia's shoulder. Alia tried to push her away until observer placed her other hand on her head. Alia jerked and slumped over. Observer used her other hand to keep Alia upright as she presumably searched Alia's mind. Why isn't she trying to escape? Marinette thought as she turned around, attempted to open the door, but it was stuck, completely unmoving. With these powers, I can reveal any secrets you are hiding, especially those of Peter and Chloe. Observed laughed as the bar filled up. It finished with a satisfying ding. Observer let go of Alia and opened the book to the first page. "Alia," she said with mock surprise, "you are definitely hiding something. Does Marinette know you're the superhero, Rena Rogue, protector of Paris?" "Yes," Marinette thought. I do know that, but Elia didn't know that she knew, so she pretended to be surprised as she turned around and stared at Elia. Whoa, Elia, if I wasn't so fearful of my life I would be amazed right now, Marinette breathed. Now, Observer chuckled. Before I reveal what secrets Marinette has, I have a job to do. I've just been told that I have to retrieve your miraculous. It's a necklace, right? So give it to me, she ordered, taking a step towards Elia, who had snapped out of her freeze and was backing away. Marinette finally got the door open and she ran out, pulling Elia behind her. Someone's been akumatized, she yelled, trying to clear the hall as she looked around. There was silence for a few seconds before people listened to her. Everyone began to quickly exit the hall and Observer burst out of the bathroom behind her. Give me your miraculous, Elia. It belongs to the one who calls himself Hawkmoth. Observer hissed, reaching out to grab Elia's arm. We have to get out of here, Marinette thought, grabbing Elia's arm first and pulling her back. No, it does not belong to you or Hawkmoth, Marinette said, backing away. Elia put her phone back in her pocket and followed Marinette. Observer narrowed her eyes but was briefly distracted when she saw Chloe. Instead of following Hawkmoth's orders, she headed for the annoying blonde. In one long stride that would have been impossible for a normal human, she went over to Chloe and grabbed her arm. Of course, Marinette thought she has enhanced abilities. Now what are you hiding, Chloe? Let go of me, you monster. This jacket is expensive, and I don't want you to ruin it. Chloe pouted, seemingly more protective of her jacket than her own mind. Observer placed a hand on her head, and Chloe stopped struggling. The meter filled up and Observer dropped Chloe, opening the book to the next page. She scanned the page and closed the book with a snort, looking down at Chloe with a raised eyebrow. Nothing new here, she said dismissively. We all know who you have a crush on. It's no secret. Although apparently, you like more than one. She looked over at Peter and Adrien, who were following everyone out of the hall. Now Peter, I know you're hiding something. You're always making excuses for things and missing meetings. Let's see what your secret is. Peter turned around as Observer leapt towards him. He stumbled backwards, and Adrien exited out of the hallway along with Nino, abandoning Peter. Observer reaches out and grabbed Peter's arm, hauling him upwards. Peter's eyes were wide with terror as he struggled to escape her grasp. Observer placed her hand on his head and he stopped struggling. Excuse me there, but I'm afraid I will not allow you to let the cat out of the bag. Haha, puns, get it? 'Cause I'm a cat superhero. Whatever this guy is hiding should stay hidden, Chat Noir's amused voice said from above. He jumped off the roof and landed on the floor, walking towards Observer nonchalantly. She dropped Peter and advanced towards her new target, Chat Noir. The bar on her book depleted, and Peter seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, before scrambling to exit out of the door behind him. Marinette pulled Elia's arm and they exited the hall as well. We need to hide you somewhere, Marinette said, as they ran from the school. No, I'm nothing to Hawkmoth unless I have my miraculous, Elia said and then winced. About that, Marinette, I'm really sorry for not telling you I was Rena Rouge, she rambled. Ladybug herself came to me and trusted me with the fox miraculous, and it's amazing. I was gonna tell you but I wasn't allowed to. It's okay, Marinette smiled, placing her hand on Elia's shoulder. I don't actually have my miraculous right now. Ladybug gives it to me on hard missions but I'm not allowed to keep it. Probably for this reason, Elia continued. I'll hide you at my place, Marinette told Elia, but she shook her head. Michelle knows where you live, girl. She'll probably head there next, assuming you'll hide with me there. Let's shelter at my place instead, Elia said, and Marinette nodded in agreement. As soon as they got to Elia's house, Marinette turned to leave. Marinette, where are you going? Elia questioned. Marinette jumped and turned around. I'm going to go find Peter. Because a Peter needs to be rescued. Marinette attempted to make an excuse. Elia shook her head with a smile. Marinette, Marinette, Marinette. Elia grinned. Well, I'm coming with you then. Why didn't you say so? No, Marinette exclaimed, and Elia raised an eyebrow. I mean, you can't come. Observer knows you're Rena Rouge. Yes, but Marinette, I told you before, I don't have the miraculous on me right now. Yes, but if you're captured, you could be used as a bargaining chip or something, Marinette argued. So could you. So could any other civilian. Please stay here, Elia. Elia sighed. Okay. Marinette paused. If Ladybug comes and asks for your help, then come. But tell her that Hawkmoth knows who you are. Deal? Elia smiled. Alright, just go already. I hope you enjoy. This part, unlike the first part, is 4 chapters long. This one is only 3. I have to end this now because I have to do something. Link down to the description if you want to read the rest of the story. I hope you enjoy. Goodbye.